Hi everyone, I'm storyteller.xiukai, and welcome to my channel. Today, I'm super excited to share a fascinating piece of Chinese history with you. This is the very first episode of my Great Qin Empire series. In the episodes to come, I'll dive deep into the stories from records of the Grand Historian, specifically the section called Basic Annals of Qin. Together, we'll explore the history of the Qin Empire, China's first unified feudal dynasty. Now, I know many of you are already familiar with Chinese history, particularly the Qin dynasty. You might have learned about it from TV dramas, translated history books, or similar sources. But let's face it, most of what's covered focuses on the era of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor. That's just one slice of the Qin state's history. The road to unifying China was much more complex than what you typically see on screen. The story of Qin isn't just a tale of relentless ambition. It's also a story that's been overshadowed by biased narratives about Qin Shi Huang and the dynasty he built. So my goal today is to play the role of a historical scavenger. I'll pick up the forgotten, misunderstood, and even deliberately ignored pieces of history. Let's uncover the side of the story that records of the Grand Historian didn't fully tell. If you've heard of the Qin dynasty, chances are you associate it with dramatic depictions of Emperor Qin Shi Huang. Perhaps you think of him as a tyrant known for burning books, burying scholars alive, enforcing harsh laws, and ruling with an iron fist. These ideas are largely shaped by popular media and secondary historical sources. But here's the question: how accurate are these portrayals? Qin Shi Huang in records of the Grand Historian, tyrant or reformer? That's exactly what we're exploring today. You've likely heard of records of the Grand Historian, Shiji, a masterpiece of ancient Chinese historiography. It's not only a cornerstone of historical documentation, but also celebrated for its literary brilliance. However, keep in mind that when Sima Qian wrote it, his perspectives and political motivations likely influenced how events were portrayed. So, how reliable is the version of Qin's history presented in Shiji? Did it reflect biases or specific agendas of the time? To understand this, we need to first look at the context. The Qin dynasty was overthrown by Liu Bang, who went on to establish the Han dynasty. Naturally, as the founder of a new regime, Liu Bang had every reason to paint Qin Shi Huang as a tyrant. After all, the legitimacy of the Han dynasty was rooted in its overthrow of the Qin. By portraying Qin Shi Huang as a despot, the Han rulers justified their own authority. But what about Sima Qian's perspective? Writing during the Han dynasty, was he also influenced by these political dynamics? Could his portrayal of Qin Shi Huang carry emotional or political undertones? In the next part, we'll dig into some overlooked and possibly misrepresented details that might give us a more balanced view of Qin Shi Huang and his legacy. To better understand this issue, let's start with some historical context. As you may know, the Han dynasty was established after overthrowing the Qin dynasty. Naturally, Liu Bang, the founder of the Han dynasty, had every reason to portray Qin Shi Huang as a tyrant. After all, the legitimacy of the Han regime was built on the premise of ending Qin's oppressive rule. As a result, historical accounts often depicted Qin Shi Huang as an authoritarian and cruel ruler. But here's the question: did Sima Qian, the author of records of the Grand Historian, have his own emotional or political biases? Given that Liu Bang's power relied on toppling the Qin dynasty, it's hard to imagine that Qin Shi Huang would be given a fair or positive portrayal in official narratives. This brings us to the overlooked or even deliberately forgotten details in historical records. These details are key to gaining a more comprehensive understanding of the Qin dynasty and seeing Qin Shi Huang for who he truly was. The burning of books and the standardization of writing. Qin Shi Huang's overlooked contribution. Most of you have probably heard of the term burning of books and burying of scholars, Fenshu Kengru. Popular TV dramas and many history books frame this event as a symbol of Qin Shi Huang's tyranny, suggesting that he burned books to suppress intellectual thought and even buried scholars alive. These vivid depictions have had a lasting impact on his reputation, but if we take a closer look, the reality isn't as simple as it seems. The burning of books was actually part of a broader reform to standardize the Chinese written language. At the start of the Qin dynasty, different regions in China used various writing systems, with significant differences in characters and styles. This made governance and communication across the empire extremely challenging. Qin Shi Huang's policy of book burning wasn't about destroying knowledge for its own sake. It was a measure to eliminate regional variations in writing and promote a unified script. By standardizing the written language, Qin Shi Huang laid the foundation for cultural and administrative continuity in China. This reform ensured that ideas and records could be consistently communicated across regions and generations. Think about it. Without a unified writing system, how much harder would it have been for Chinese culture and governance to develop cohesively? This monumental achievement is often overshadowed by the dramatic imagery of burning books. Many narratives reduce this reform to an act of suppression, overlooking its historical significance. In essence, the standardization of writing was the true core of this reform, and it has had a profound and lasting impact on Chinese civilization. Now, imagine a world where there was no standardized writing system. How challenging would it have been for Chinese culture and political systems to communicate and evolve cohesively? Without this critical reform, the continuation of culture would have been severely hindered. Yet this achievement is often overlooked in traditional historical records, which instead focus on portraying the book burning as a violent act. This misunderstanding has led many to mistakenly view Qin Shi Huang as nothing more than a tyrant. However, his reforms are precisely what cemented his lasting influence on Chinese history. The burying of scholars, targeting charlatans. When it comes to the burying of scholars, Kengru, many assume it was Qin Shi Huang's extreme effort to suppress intellectuals. In reality, this event also warrants re-examination. The term Kengru didn't refer to indiscriminately killing scholars, but rather targeted sorcerers and pseudo-intellectuals who deceived the emperor with superstition and fraudulent claims. Imagine the scene. These individuals proclaimed they could predict the future or grant immortality. To counter such deceit, Qin Shi Huang took stringent actions, punishing those who exploited their influence for personal gain. Historical misinterpretations behind burning books and burying scholars. So why have these events been widely framed as acts of tyranny? The answer lies in the complex historical backdrop. After Qin Shi Huang's death, the Qin dynasty quickly collapsed, and Liu Bang established the Han dynasty. To solidify his rule, Liu Bang employed a clever strategy. He shifted the blame for the Qin dynasty's failures entirely onto Qin Shi Huang. This tactic allowed Liu Bang to denounce Qin Shi Huang personally, while continuing many of the Qin dynasty's administrative practices. Imagine if Liu Bang had openly declared, "We're carrying on Qin's policies." That would have made it seem like he was perpetuating Qin's so-called tyranny. By casting Qin Shi Huang as a scapegoat, Liu Bang redirected public dissatisfaction and painted himself as a hero. As a result, Qin Shi Huang became synonymous with tyranny, while Liu Bang emerged as a savior. This narrative persisted in historical records and profoundly shaped how we understand Qin Shi Huang's legacy. Liu Bang's strategy. masterfully shaping history. From this perspective, Liu Bang demonstrated remarkable political savvy. While he overthrew the Qin dynasty, he didn't entirely dismiss Qin's institutional reforms. Instead, he embraced many of them, such as standardized weights and measures, currency, and the unified writing system. These foundational reforms were carried forward by the Han dynasty and became the cornerstone of China's historical development. Thus, evaluations of Qin Shi Huang throughout history might not be as straightforward as they seem. Many focus solely on his portrayal as a tyrant, overlooking the numerous progressive reforms he implemented. These reforms laid the groundwork for China's cultural continuity and political evolution. Conclusion: the true face of Qin Shi Huang. Although Qin Shi Huang's death was followed by the swift collapse of the Qin dynasty, the reforms he championed, particularly his unification policies, had a profound and lasting impact on China. Despite the negative judgments that history often places on him, Qin Shi Huang was undoubtedly one of the greatest reformers in Chinese history. In the upcoming episodes of the Empire of Qin series, I'll continue to uncover the overlooked or misunderstood details and records of the grand historian, Shiji, and reveal the true historical face of the Qin dynasty. Together, we'll delve into the fragments of history lost over time and uncover the truths hidden within them. If you're passionate about Chinese history, don't forget to follow and subscribe to my channel. Join me as we unveil the historical legacy of the Qin Empire. See you in the next episode.